Hey, everybody, and welcome back to our next session. Thanks for joining. I'm Mark Good, and here we're talking about the analysis of ISVs and their readiness for AI and GPT technology. And by readiness, all I mean is who's adopting AI, who's adopting generative technology for their products and offering that as an ISV for Salesforce solutions. I'm stoked to share this session today. We've put a lot of work in behind the scenes. The GPT Dream team has done a lot of the legwork to go through and find all of the ISVs. Uh, Thankfully, they have all submitted information prior to this session. So if you're out there and you're on this, you're watching the show and you're an ISV, then we still have that form up. Feel free to continue submitting that. That's at gpt.com/ISV. Hopefully someone drops that link right in the chat for you. We want to hear from you. We want to know who all out there is using GPT tech in their products and offering that for Salesforce professionals. That's what this session's all about, is just sort of giving everyone a level set for the market, a good understanding of what's out there and what's available, and also what's coming next. So again, my name is Mark Good, founder of AI Force Training. Amazing session from Bradley, just demoing some amazing things that we've worked on and continue to work on in the AI space. So please connect with me. There's a QR code here if you haven't already on LinkedIn. I love to hear from you all. Send me a direct message. No worries. I love it. I love talking GPT and AI with everyone that I can. All right, so let's dive right in here. What is an ISV? Okay, kind of a boring slide. A lot of people already know ISVs, but ISV really just think about apps on the App Exchange, and maybe not on the App Exchange, but apps built by third-party vendors for Salesforce and on the Salesforce platform. So why are we even having a session on ISVs? Why is this so important? Independent vendors are a core part of the Salesforce ecosystem, these apps. So Salesforce does an amazing job on their core platform and also has the App Exchange and allows vendors to come on and just increase functionality. And so why does that matter so much with AI, you might wonder? Well, AI is third party to Salesforce. It's a technology that was developed outside of Salesforce. Generative AI was. Now Salesforce is doing all of their own internal work and they have expertise in-house as well. But the technology started on the outside. And therefore, there's sort of this level playing field where independent vendors can go out and start taking the technology, learning it, and infusing it into their platforms and their programs and their applications that we can use as Salesforce professionals for our business solutions. So that's why we're talking about ISVs. It's so important to the Salesforce ecosystem, and natural language technology, generative technology is key and core to the future of ISV applications. So I want to show you a little bit about what we've done here, talk about the methodology that we've gone through to evaluate ISVs. So the development of GPT tooling and approaches is changing very rapidly. Of course, we all know this. A lot has changed in the past year, and you may not know it, but even 2 to 3 years before, things looked very different in the generative AI space. So of course, we're going to have to come back and revisit this analysis method every, say, 3 to 4 months to sort of not only evaluate the current state of ISVs, but also evaluate how we're evaluating them. But we had to start somewhere. So we thought it'd be useful to do an analysis on the Salesforce ecosystem, looking at 2 major criteria to start off with. And so the first one is the innovation. So that's on the bottom, the x-axis. So innovation. So what is this? This is on the left, it's the least amount of innovation possible. So that would be something like just totally duplicating the function of ChatGPT. So you send a question or a request and you get a response, and that's it. And that's all the ISV does, or that's all the app or tool does. So that'd be on the far left-hand side. Now on the far right-hand side, I'll go through each one. So let's talk basic. So basic is next. That's more like the tool or the app closely represents a simple prompt and response with an LLM. So really minimum and basic. Maybe they're sorry. Minimum is really no evidence of GPT functionality. So reverse those. Sorry. Minimum, no evidence of GPT functionality in the app. Basic, that closely represents using like ChatGPT, something very simple, very basic. Then you've got advanced. So advanced means that the tool or the app utilizes a prompt maybe adds specific context data. So it's adding information for you as a user. Maybe pulling that context from the org itself, so customer data or case history, or all the things you can think of that could be context as a part of a prompt, and then interfacing with the language model like OpenAI's GPT-4 to craft that desired response, and is likely to incorporate maybe some form of, if you haven't heard this yet from the previous sessions, vector database storage systems. So that's our advanced column. I'll say that you'll probably see this shake out. So spoiler alert, there's advanced is kind of like a heavy section right now. You'll see a lot of tooling fall into that category. All right. How about sophisticated? What is sophisticated? So that involves handling much larger data sets. So in advanced, it's more of a smaller, narrow range data set. This is a sophistication, much larger data sets, multiple AI calls, possibly with complex prompt chaining. So maybe the end user uses the tool and makes a request or clicks a button and does an action. But behind the scenes, the app is going out and potentially calling the language model multiple times for decision making, or in order to get the final prompt or the final result that you're looking for as a part of that app. So complex prompt chaining, multi-step user engagement. So if you're engaging the end user of the app, if the app is engaging you as an end user a few times before it gets you to the final result, that's more complex as well. That goes in the sophisticated category. And then possibly utilizing other code like Python for decision-making and actions and other activity. Think LangChain and things like that. And then intricate use of vector databases as well. So we talked about that. Advanced for vector database is very simple. Sophisticated is way more advanced, way more use of the vector database. Okay. Oh, jumping ahead. Oh no. Okay, back to it. Let's talk about futuristic. This is the one that excites me the most and gets me coming back every day to do things like GPT Dreaming and beyond. Futuristic, deploying AI with agency. So this is the AI that everyone is probably scared of when we start to talk about futuristic. So AI with agency, meaning you engage, the end user may or may not engage with the AI and kick off some sort of chain of long sequence of events. And the AI has some level of agency where it's making decisions, making updates to the org, to records, to data, to communicate with customers, maybe actually communicating directly with the customers without human involvement. The futuristic is really future, so you won't see anything in that category here today, but that is where things are heading. And what you'll see with this chart is that you'll see a lot of dots start on the bottom left, and as time goes on and we do these events over time, they will move further and further to the top right. And why is that? Why bottom left? Because the bottom on the left-hand side is availability. And everything starts with what? An idea. So these are conceptual products, primarily discussing potential capabilities, but nothing to show for it. Then you have dev or development. So development, these are tools or apps that are at their formative stages and have not yet reached pilot testing. So just sort of being developed, obviously. Then you've got pilot. So these are applications that are actually in trial with actual use cases and actual customers trying them out. A lot of these are closed pilots. And then you've got GA, that's general availability. So any tool that shows up at the chart at the top is available to the public. So that is our criteria. I think you can maybe see the importance of that criteria and how this chart's going to shake out. But let's dive in. The first one that everyone's probably easy to understand. So we'll do it with Salesforce first. So these are Salesforce core products, and we just use the same criteria here. Even though it's not ISV, it's fun to just see where Salesforce falls on our metrics. So notice that under the GA section, you've got Sales GPT and Service GPT. Excuse me. So those were rolled out earlier. I think it was in July, perhaps. So there's functionality that's available today that you can get for Sales and Service GPT. So those are up in the GA section. Those are advanced, or we're categorizing those as advanced innovation. It's more than just your typical basic back and forth with ChatGPT. It looks like there's some prompt structuring there, some in-org data use, obviously. And so we give those the advanced column. Now let's talk about what's in pilot and maybe some of edging down towards the development section. So we know from what I know, and I'll just do a caveat here. I should have done this at the beginning. This is off of the information that I know. Chances are there's some updated information. Honestly, I was up late last night updating this, but chances are this will change very quickly, and this will be outdated. So I'll mention here that what we're doing as well is we're publishing these slides. So I mentioned taking notes earlier. You don't really have to. We're going to publish this report here, and this is the Generative AI Adoption Assessment Report. And this is going to include all of these charts, and you'll be able to take this away from the event today. And inside of these charts, you'll also see some links. So you'll have that as well. You'll have a full report out of the Salesforce and ISV tech that's available to you. And I think this is a great takeaway for the event. So Slack GPT, Marketing GPT, Commerce GPT, Tableau GPT, and there are actually some other products in there. I'll just throw out a mention for tools like Prompt Studio, if you've heard about that. You've got Apex GPT and LWC GPT. So these are geared towards the dev side. Those are actually progressing quite well. I have a post coming out soon where I just caught wind that there may be some November rollouts for the Apex GPT and maybe the LWC GPT. So looking forward to more GA stuff from Salesforce as well. I want to show you, I'm going to pause it here at the right point. And I just want to show you very quickly what we're looking at. So just some basic functionality, really nice email creation, draft an email with Einstein. So really good functionality here, introductions, sending notes, nudging, and reconnect based on pre-structured prompts by Salesforce. I don't have hands on this yet, but presumably you can tweak those prompts. Presumably you can add your own. I don't see the option here, but I assume it's coming. If not with Prompt Studio, then some other mechanism. But this is your one of the core functions of Sales GPT. Creating those structured emails. So I'm just going to talk over this here. And of course, once you get your email, there's the human engagement in between where you can read through it, make your updates. Here we are inside using Service GPT, taking a look at a case, and we're at a chat with a customer on a case. On the top right, you can see where they have listed Einstein GPT and then Einstein's next best action. Inside the Einstein GPT box, after the customer has sent their note to the rep, actually populating response. And you'll see in this demo here, they're just going to click the send button, and that response goes straight into the chat, which is really nice. You've got the edit and adjust button, which you can use to change the response before you do send it. Really nice functionality coming out of Salesforce from that. Of course, on the right-hand side, we've got the chart for continued rollout. Now, this is June, July, and August. With Dreamforce coming up, so hoping to see more rollout plans here from Salesforce, and then we'll see this chart shake up from there. So moving on to the next one here, we're going to transition to talking about ISVs. So these are the ISVs that we've categorized as driving changes to Salesforce, or that change intelligence category. And I think this chart, when I put this chart together, I was kind of surprised, to be honest. But I think it's just because I'm in the weeds of AI. I expect things are just rolling along. But in reality, if you take a look at this chart, for those ISVs that are all about change intelligence, we're just at the starting point. We're at the starting line. I mean, adoption has just begun, and Elements.cloud clearly standing out as a sophisticated tool here with a pilot program. So not quite general availability. However, I do believe that's coming very soon. So you saw a presentation on that previously. One-click user stories with acceptance criteria. They offer recommended solutions for your org based on your org data, asking questions about your org, which is a really nice feature. Focusing in on best practice, well-architected framework, which is really good as well. And then for the sophisticated category, so they used AI, they use org metadata for configuration, context, process diagrams, and best practice within Salesforce. Really nice tools going on there. If you haven't seen their demos, they were on in a previous session. They did some demoing there. You know what? I think we've got a video on that. So this is Savry Lisinski doing a demo. First of all, he's pulling up the diagram, the UPN diagram, and showing how they would typically create a user story based on the diagram, but now they've added this AI functionality. So he's selecting all the boxes. He's doing generate user stories, and then providing some additional information from the user, from your perspective of what you're looking for. Okay, so then he flies through this. I'll just pause it for a second because I want to show you what I thought was really nice out of this. And again, if you haven't seen it, you'll want to watch it yourself. But what I thought was really nice out of this is that you get a description back, which is really nice, acceptance criteria, which is awesome. Yep. And then you've got how might it be implemented. So ask elements. He's going to click that. And then based on the information that was in the context. So this is why sophistication is applied to this product, because you're prompting the end user multiple times and then compounding the information that goes back to the language model to get the response. I think this is fantastic. So requirement. Okay. So he's going to talk through here. It's actually looking at the org data and saying, okay, based on these information already provided, what fields can be reused to meet the requirements, what fields need to be new, what objects need to be reused, or what objects are new. And then in just a moment, he'll roll into required automations that were suggested by the AI, implementation steps. And then I think he goes on from there to talk about how you can modify that as you go. Just really good, really solid work from elements.cloud on AI implementation into their ISV product. Looking for some great stuff coming from StrongPoint, Panaya, Hubble, and Sonar soon, I hope, and love to see these bubbles move around. Okay, so moving on next, but implementing changes to Salesforce, thinking on the DevOps side. So again, here, same chart, availability and innovation. And first we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about Copado. So information we got from Copado is that it is generally available. So what you're doing with Copado, what they've done from an AI standpoint, infusing into their product, is they've got, you can generate quick user stories inside of the Copado app. So once you have that app inside Salesforce, you can do that. Answer questions about sprints. So sprints is a part of their package. And so if you're inside the sprints portion of their app, you can ask questions about that, about the sprint, and get responses based on the information that's in the org about the sprint. You can write release notes for promotion and development. So again, just helping you with that development process, and then assistance in writing Apex and test classes, which I think I mentioned before is one of my absolute favorite use cases for AI, especially the test classes. So just jumping into Copado. So here we're zooming into it looks like we're in the Copado change management portion of their app. And I'll have to refresh my memory as we go. So here's an option just right inside the app, which is so nice to improve my user story. Please refer to the data privacy policy by OpenAI. That's key. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get to the final slides here. But with the simple click of a button, Copado AI Helper, selecting user story fields, so you can select fields and have some control over what gets sent to the language model for your responses. So you can review your request or the prompt there, and you can make updates to it before you hit submit. And then if you submit that, that goes off to the language model, and then you get recommended improvements, again, based on data within your org. I think it's really, these are really powerful tools. Looks like they've got a copy to clipboard, and then you can go and take that straight to the record and paste that and save it. And so with AI augmentation inside of Copado, you can actually go and do things a lot more efficiently. I want to mention they have continued development plans. So they mentioned that to us. Continued development is planned for AI use cases inside of Copado. Their focus is the entire development lifecycle, including pipeline automation, suggestive AI, test automation, and exploratory testing. All right. That's a theme that we're seeing throughout this entire week, is that the change in landscape of your responsibilities as a Salesforce professional based on the role that you have is going to be slowly changing over time. Every week that goes by, there's another small footstep forward toward AI and toward utilizing AI and understanding the tools, understanding the capabilities, and making the right recommendations for your organizations and using those tools effectively. So Metazoa is also a generally available tool that uses AI and GPT today. It is in the sophisticated category. It's not highly advertised, so if you kind of have to go poke around to find it. But we're going to provide you with links inside that document that we'll send out, so you have everything you need. AI is being built into every aspect of their product. That's what they're promoting. Right now, it's generally available. And right now, it looks like the AI use cases that are available are things like creating SOQL filters, explaining metadata deployment error messages. So when you get those error messages, using their tooling to explain those error messages and what they mean. Um, describing the functionality of Apex classes. So if you've used GPT before, you know that this is really great functionality that you can send a request to the LLM, to the language model, and tell it that you don't understand something, and it's going to give you its interpretation of what it means. And that's really nice for Apex classes. If you've ever opened up a 100-line Apex class and just wish you had a quick summary of what it's doing, this is the kind of tool that will do that. Assistants writing Apex classes as well. So if you're writing Apex classes, not just trying to understand them, then they have some functionality within their tool as well. I do have a link, so we'll jump in. So there's a lot going on here. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I'll just sort of play it and talk as we go. Here's some creating Sockwell filters based on natural language, which is something that we also train on at AI Force training. So even if you're not using a tool like this one from Metazoa, then you can still use language models to do this. But it's always nice using a tool and being inside of a tool itself. So there's just adding some natural language to create the actual Sockwell filter. I'll try to, looks like we're going to go for it. And there it is. So where ID in select account from contact. And so that's something that language models are really good at, is translating. Whether it's Michael Leach's awesome translation demo, just chaining a translation from one language all the way back around, going through 5 different languages to get back to the original message. That was a great demo. If you haven't seen that video, you're going to want to go back and watch that from Michael Leach. But translation, not just spoken languages, but also coding languages. AI can do that. Yep, Sockwell filters, explaining metadata, describing functionality in Apex classes, and then actually helping assistants writing Apex classes as well. Now, I am super excited to see the next one, iDialogue. Of course, if you missed iDialogue's presentation on the state of AI and how it's impacting the org and their tooling as well, you're going to want to go check that out. iDialogue, incredibly sophisticated solution. That's why it's further to the right on this chart. It's also generally available. iDialogue is utilizing different things inside the platform, just plugging in AI wherever it makes the most sense. They're doing things like File GPT, where you can chat with files. So you upload a file and then you can chat with that file, ask questions of it, extract information from it, which is really useful, especially if someone else uploads a file and you don't know what the contents are and you want, say, a summary of the contents or specific information out of it. AI can do that for you and get that information. So iDialogue is pushing hard on File GPT. They also are pioneering on Flow GPT as well, which is incredible. Just infusing GPT and AI inside of a flow, and then having that flow perform your typical functions inside of Salesforce. I think that's an incredible use case. And then there is, I think he calls it Chat GPT as well, even though it's not, it's Chat GPT, chatting with GPT inside your Salesforce org. So that's more that like basic and advanced functionality, using the record information to chat with the records and, sort of ask about a particular account or a contact. So they've got some really cool stuff on that. So I thought this was amazing. Again, this is in the presentation that he did for GPT Dreamin'. So go back if you haven't seen it. He showed a demo of this image processing. So iDialogue can take an image. If you upload an image, you can it uses text extraction on that image, OCR, multimodal object description, auto invoking on file uploads, and then identifying personal identifiable information. So this is a screenshot of the sessions from the actual GPT Dreamin' sessions, just a screenshot uploaded to Salesforce. And then what he does is he's got, I think it's maybe the File GPT, and some standard prompts there. So if you build your own prompts, then you can, if you use something often, you can say, it says itemize the sessions using bullet points, and then actually looking at that uploaded image, itemizing those. I just think this is the coolest thing. Really nice use case to take a look at an image and pull out the text from that image, have it inside of GPT, and then you can imagine in the future state, as we have that information inside of displayed inside the org, then we can start doing things with it at a future date. But right now we're on the beginning stages where we're chatting with it, we're massaging it, using that data for sort of more conversational items. I think it's a great use case. Very fun to see. Loved the demonstrations by iDialogue. And then now we're left with the rest of the implementing changes to Salesforce on the DevOps side companies. That's Salesforce DevOps, GearSet, Prodly, Flossom, Salto, and Own Backup. All those dots are at the far tiny left side under ideas only. We don't have any information specific about how those products are being changed to infuse GPT and AI quite yet. Again, I'd love to see some information from any representatives so that we can start updating these dots and blowing them out into the chart and really find out where everybody stands. But as of right now, these are all ideas and just on the minimum innovation side. And I can't wait to see that grow. Okay. What about other, let's see, org and other tools using AI? So tools for the org and other tools using AI. So this is just sort of everything else kind of a scatter. We're going to start with cloud compliance, and they have a product called GPT-5. So that one's right in the middle there. That one is in pilot, to my understanding today, and it falls just inside, just to the right of the advanced innovation. So this is think like similar to ChatGPT, but for Salesforce in the org, allowing you to pull information from the record and chat about the information on the record. They have some cool functionality on sort of creating your own prompts, saving those prompts, getting sentiment on a record. So having AI give that sentiment, summarizing a record, doing Q&A on a record, and then what they're really specialized in, which is something I find intriguing and I like, is the data masking. So Salesforce talks all about the trust layer. Compliance Cloud's GPT-5 does data masking. So they do a good job of identifying that personally identifiable information, masking it before saying it to the language model, and then somehow magically turning it back to what it needs to be before it gets back to the user in the user interface. So helping to protect your data. Page. They had a couple of quick samples on their page. And what they do as well is, as you use their products, what they've done is they've identified potential time savings. So you'll see that little timer pop up. I thought that was kind of neat to help you with the business case for AI, right? I mean, right now it's sort of up in the air. It's really hard to wrap your arms around and create a solid business case for a comprehensive AI solution. Really, it's just right now it's 1-2, piece it together, try to make a business case work based on one specific or a couple of specific solutions. So it's nice to see that. And then here's an example of getting account 360 summary. So just summarizing account, going out, looking at the opportunity record information, looking at the, providing maybe a next best option for that record. And then lastly here, working on the case, showing sentiment and summary for a case based on a particular customer's information on the case. Next, we're going to take a look at native videos, Alfred. And you know what? We'll just keep going. If we run out of time, we'll stop. But I want to show you all this functionality. I think this plot is somewhat more interesting than the other two because you've got various products at various stages of innovation, and they're moving, and various stages of availability. So I think it's the AI market is really dynamic right now. It's really interesting to see all the different the new tools and the current tools that are being adjusted. So let's go into Alfred. So Alfred is here. So Alfred falls on the right side of advanced, left side of sophisticated. This is a product by Native Video. So you'll have the link again if you want this, want to go check it out. But voice-based notes is something that you can do. I think they have a quick demo. I can click on it and show you that. So creating notes based on voice to text. GPT powered sentiment, transcriptions, executive summaries, next steps for records, and follow-up email drafting, and multi-language support as well. They also have they're trying to deploy it for any object within the org, any process within the org, and any activity within the org. So what they do is they walk you through a sales use case story. I'll try to fast forward to the good parts. Basically, as a sales user, the sales user has just left the customer and maybe just left the meetings and has a bunch of new information to share with the org and update records, right? So instead of having to, maybe in this case, go on the mobile app and sit in the car for, say, 15 minutes and go and maybe voice to text, maybe type everything in. What the demonstration here is from Luca is it's a voice to text. It's a voice recording, and that voice recording gets transcribed, and then that is connected with your org. So that transcription goes straight to the org, to the record. But what happens next is quite intriguing to me. So there's the data going actually to the org. So he goes back to the org itself. So they have a nice UI here that displays the actual audio that you recorded. They've got an executive summary, so that gets pulled out from AI to give you that executive summary of your recording. There is a follow-up button, which you'll see in just a second. He'll click that, and then you'll have suggested follow-ups for this particular, say, engagement or interaction with the customer. And then you also have on the far right a button for transcription. He'll click that in a second, and you'll see that you can then transcribe this into other languages. I believe that's what the use case is here, but let's see. So there's the follow-up. So you have your tick boxes on the right, and you can actually use this as the next steps follow-up checkoff, which I thought was quite nice. So to go from meeting to checklist of items to do, say you're going to get back to your office in a few hours and start working on those. Quite nice. Also a suggested email follow-up with the customer as well. Again, automatic, quite nice. These are sort of standard functions that you would expect as a sales rep working with your customers. And it is hard. It's hard to go from those in-person meetings to back to the org and kind of have to do that brain dump. So quite nice to have an integration like that from native video called Alfred. Next up, we'll talk about Flow GPT. So you probably heard a lot about that during GPT Dreamin' so far. It's incredible features. Flow GPT is something that we train on AI Force training as part of our core platform. I see it as absolutely a part of the intricate future of GPT within the org, especially when it comes to really honing in the capabilities for your specific business cases. Salesforce is doing a great job on pushing the front for just generic overall major use cases that all customers are going to need. Flow GPT is sort of that next level. Hey, I need this specific action to happen. And shout out to Bradley Rice's demo, which actually showed how that works. You can update records with Flow GPT and get those emails prepared, but really specific emails that you need cultivated for your customers. So Flow GPT is all about that. AI actions added inside the flow. So we're looking at more of a sophisticated operation of AI within the org. It's generally available. Decision-making capabilities with human style intelligence. This is the kind of thought process I'm thinking of when I'm thinking about Flow GPT. It's, where in the org can we sort of augment that human decision-making and infuse best practice with that decision-making? And so potentially over time, as we move more towards the futuristic side, the AI gets some sort of agency. If it's good enough, if it's making the right decisions at the right time for the right process, being fed with the right information by GPT specialists, of course, those that are cultivating those prompts, those prompt engineers, then the flow inside your org can make proper decisions, and we can allow it to have some sort of agency. And I think Flow GPT is the first steps towards that. And I did mention it requires prompt engineering. So prompt engineering is key, understanding how to utilize those flows, get it infused with AI. Let's move on to Vemicom's WordMate. So that is here. So that's another generally available tool. We're placing that above basic, but slightly below advanced. And this is using record details inside your org to write emails and other summaries. So this is my video that I created on Flow GPT doing a demo. So again, you've seen this already, but those blue boxes inside the flow are the GPT actions that are occurring. So that's where AI is getting used inside the flow. And you can chain those prompts together and utilize different actions at different times to do different things and really create sort of your own AI business processes inside that flow. So I'll just fast forward here and show you maybe a resulting screen. So here's AI in my org. So this is an AI summary of a case, a suggested resolution for the case. And if the case needs to be translated for an end user or customer perhaps, or the resolution needs to be translated, you can do that as well. Tons of different things you can do inside the flow. I'll fast forward a little bit here if there's anything else that's good. Oh yeah, just walking through the boxes, just talking it through. So again, that's what we train on an AI Force training. Key, so good. I love it. Flow GPT is where it's at. All right. enough of that. WordMate. WordMate using record details to write emails and other summaries. Sort of have more of a demo presentation here. So they've got a nice UI on the right-hand side, and basically almost like with a click of a button, it just does a bunch of calls to GPT, appears to, and it does some magic and gives you proposed emails, and it gives you multiple iterations of it, so that you're not having to go back and forth with with GPT via that app. So we haven't talked about Sidekick. I think that's next. Yeah, let's go to Sidekick. So Sidekick is very interesting. It's in the advanced section, and it is generally available. So Sidekick is sort of like a Chat GPT style chatbot, but structured for Salesforce and using Salesforce source data, meaning information that's available from Salesforce publicly for how you do best practice for Salesforce. So Sidekick is actually infused with that, and that's why it falls under the advanced section. Very interesting. I had the pleasure of working with the founder, Kevin, on creating a video, because Sidekick was actually the first GPT app that passed a Salesforce admin exam. I'll leave it here. But basically, what we did is we just walked through and took the practice admin exam. So for those of you thinking, wait, you can't, those things are proctored, what are you talking about? It's correct. We just use a practice exam, and Sidekick was able to just take, copy and paste the questions, and based on the source data that Sidekick utilizes as far as pulling in to answer the questions automatically behind the scenes, it was able to score better, a passing grade and better than the average grade on the practice admin exam. And while you watch that, I'll also tell you that Igor over on LinkedIn contacted me after and said, hey, I want to see if GPT-4 can do the same thing on the PD1 cert. And I don't have a video for that, but he also showed some screenshots of GPT-4 passing the PD1 cert. And I say it in this video, and if you're not subscribed to AI Force Training on YouTube, this is the kind of stuff you'll get. So I suggest you do that, because we're bringing this sort of information year round. But PD1 cert passed, practice test passed by AI. Kind of makes you think about the capabilities that AI has that we don't know yet, right? We don't know the full extent of how well we're going to be able to utilize this technology in the future. Let's move on to a company called an ISV called Set Sail. Now, Set Sail is actually on the development side, so no pilot, no GA yet, but they are just on the right side of the advanced. Set Sail AI uses org data such as email, content, meeting transcripts, contact details, calendar invites, and more, ensuring that responses are useful and fine-tuned to unique sales processes. Okay, so super quick demo here. Sorry for the delay there. Okay, so using Set Sail, presumably in the org, I can't recall in this one, but do a, I don't know this acronym, MEDDIC, MEDDIC analysis on the revenue mode opportunity. So apparently there's a revenue mode opportunity available, and Set Sail is going to have to come do a demo for us at some point, but you get metrics, you get the economic buyer, and these are presumably the best, the standard practice for that type of analysis. Decision criteria, decision processes, identify pain, champion. Really nice. So really good use of correct prompting to cultivate the responses that users need quickly for, a standardized. And then we've got Q&A after the fact as well. What's the last email we got from Amy Bush? Asking questions of records. Again, you're starting to see these trends sort of develop, where a lot of these AI solutions are, you're seeing a lot of crossover. The ISVs, even Salesforce, both together are sort of crossing over each other's capabilities and functionality. And I think it's really interesting to watch that play out and think about how that functionality rolls out over time, and how the different organizations find the different niches on capability, and then what we as end users will either build or use or train to as the final tools for our org. One of the key takeaways today is this stuff is here. It's not future. We are already here. A lot of generally available things. Coming up to wrap up here, information overload, right? Yeah, that's how I feel too. As I was going through all these tools and trying to identify what they do, what's available, what's pilot. That's why we put this together for you so that you don't have to do all of that work. But it's still information overload nonetheless, right? Because you still have to go through and we're going to send you the list. And now you got to figure out, well, what are you going to use for your org and what's the best case and what is the business case? And so, what are the questions that we need to ask as professionals as we're looking out at the landscape of AI capabilities and we're evaluating whether or not we're going to use Salesforce's AI cloud functionality or some ISV tool or some third-party tool that's available? Well, here's some of the questions you're going to want to ask. Who's the capability for? Who's the tool built for? Are you the target business use case? Are you the target audience? Don't bother going out and just grabbing the next tool that gets announced, signing up for the next beta if it's not something that you need. You're just going to waste your time on tools that you don't need versus spending the time on tools that you do need. What due diligence is needed? You got to ask yourself and your organization a question as you're onboarding a tool. What is the due diligence needed for that specific tool? And you'll see as we go down, what are the third-party risks involved, especially when it comes to the pricing model. Pricing for language model use can vary depending on what tool you're using and how they structure that pricing. So you have to ask that question and take a look at that. Is it on platform? Is it off platform, on the Salesforce platform or not? What information is it accessing? Is if you install this tool in your platform, is it able to see all your data and metadata and customer records? Is it able to see, what are the security settings for it? These are all questions you're going to want to ask yourself as you go forward. What controls do you have over the information access? So that's important as well. What controls do you have over functionality? So is this a plug and play? You plug it up and you're just an end user, somewhat like ChatGPT, that style tool? Or can you plug it up and then do you need internal resources to be able to manipulate how the functionality works so that you can tweak it for your specific business cases? And that's where AI Force training comes in, because that's what we do. We train you on GPT functionality and train you how to meet business cases with the tools that are available. So that's something you have to think about. Do you need those resources in-house? Do you hire that out? Do you contract that? What controls do you have over the inner workings? And then what about choosing the right LLM? We've seen that, and that's language model. We've seen that from Salesforce. They're going to give us that option to go out and choose which language model we use for different business cases. So okay, so information overload. Now I've overloaded you with questions. We recognize this as a problem. And so the GPT Dreaming team, especially focusing in on Ian Gotts and myself, we are officially announcing the future launch of buying an AI GPT solution. Ask the smart questions. So thinking of buying an AI GPT solution, ask the smart questions. Absolutely excited to finish out writing this book and just be able to provide as much information as possible to the Salesforce community regarding AI. My personal goal and the goal of AI Force training from the start has been to accelerate the adoption of AI in the Salesforce ecosystem. I think you can see that I am trying to execute on that as much as possible. And this book is just another step along that path. Very excited to release that. Working with Ian Gotts has been really amazing, especially for GPT Dreamin' as well. So if you've enjoyed GPT Dreamin', please connect with me. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with Ian as well. And I want to hear from you. And I'm excited about our AI journeys together. I do see it as a journey together. We're all learning.